Well, ever since the announcement of the NES Classic Mini, it's all anybody in the retro gaming community seems to be able to talk about these days. And yeah, I will say, for what it's worth, it actually seems like a really good deal. $60 for 30 titles plus the controller? That's less than $2 each for some of the most nostalgic video games ever made. Of course, not to be outdone, only 2 weeks later, rumors started to hit that Sega was working on a similar project in the form of a plug-and-play Sega Genesis, loaded with not 30, not 60, but with 80 games. Hell, that's almost 3 times as many as the NES. Sounds awesome, right? Well, be careful what you wish for, because you know what? I already have one. This is the Sega Genesis Ultimate Portable Game Player, made by AtGames. The rumors that Sega is working on their own version of the NES Classic Mini are mistaken. This is what people are seeing. It's not really a standalone Genesis, it's a rebranding of one of their plug-and-play devices done to coincide with the Sonic the Hedgehog 25th anniversary. I received this as a gift for Christmas last year, and I've been wanting to talk about it since then, but this news kind of made me push it up in my queue. Now, this is not the exact same device people are talking about. That one seems to be a plug-and-play system with 2 controllers that requires you to hook it up to a TV. This one has a built-in screen and an AV jack with the option to output to a TV. Well, that'll certainly make it easier to capture footage. So let's pop this thing in and let's see what the AtGames Sega Genesis Ultimate Portable Game Player has to offer. Now let's get the technicals out of the way first. It weighs 4.5 ounces, about the weight of your average banana, so it's very portable. The screen is 4:3 aspect ratio, 3.2 inches on the diagonal, and it has 8 function buttons: ABC, XYZ, Start, and Menu. The D-pad is okay. It's this weird rounded thing with raised edges in each of the cardinal directions. It's thinner, but not quite as bad as the Xbox 360 pad. But it seems nobody but Nintendo knows how to make really great D-pads anymore. You will lose more than a few games to it because you press diagonal when you're trying to press straight. The charger uses a standard mini USB, which is a nice feature in this world of proprietary formats. It has an SD card slot so you can load other Genesis games on it, but that may not be the best idea for reasons we'll get into later. So first of all, here's a rundown of all the games that come pre-installed. Alex Kidd, Alien Storm, Altered Beast, Arrow Flash, Bonanza Brothers, Chakin, Columns and Columns 3, Comic Zone, Crackdown, Decap Attack, Echo the Dolphin, Echo Jr., E-SWAT, Fatal Labyrinth, Flicky, Gain Ground, Golden Axe 1, 2, and 3, Jewel Master, Kid Chameleon, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3, Rystar, Shadow Dancer, Shinobi 3, Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic 2, Sonic & Knuckles, Sonic Spinball, Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3, The Ooze, Vector Man 1 and 2, and Virtua Fighter 2. All in all, it's a decently impressive collection. The main genre seems to be side-scrolling platformers, but you also have a nice variety of fighting games, beat-em-ups, shooters, and puzzle games. But there's one genre that's conspicuously absent from this list: RPGs. The Genesis wasn't exactly renowned for its RPGs the way the SNES was, but it still had some impressive standouts like the Oasis series, Phantasy Star, and Shining Force. The only thing that comes close is Fatal Labyrinth, but that's really more of a roguelike. Even the Genesis collection on Steam has several of these very popular and well-known games on it. So why would they forget to add them to this? There's no battery backup. Yep, look over this list again. Absolutely nothing in here requires saving of any kind. Even Fatal Labyrinth is an RPG that's intended to be beaten in one sitting. Mean Bean Machine and Columns don't save your high scores, and it's not like the Sega Genesis wasn't capable of this, it's just that every single game they chose is like that. It's a game that you start at the beginning every time and play through until you're done. It's obvious they knew about this limitation, so they picked games that wouldn't need it. Even if you were to add games to it with the provided SD card slot, you still wouldn't be able to use the save feature, so unless you can play through the entirety of Shining Force without turning off your game, you're gonna have a bad time. At least that's what I hear. For whatever reason, it refuses to read any of my SD cards. I've formatted them in everything from NTFS to exFAT, I've used several different file formats of ROM, and I've followed the instructions in the book, what few instructions there are, and it always gives me an error. There's a disclaimer on the box that it won't work with all models and formats, and I've seen video of it working, but mine just won't, so caveat emptor. Another feature that's conspicuously absent is any way to play 2 players, which is absolutely crippling for this version. A lot of these games are the most fun when you're playing with a second player, Columns, Mortal Kombat, Sonic 2, but nope. In fact, there's not even any way to temporarily switch your controls to the second player, so if you do select one of these modes, you're stuck. Now, I don't know how they would do this, maybe a USB port that would accept most third-party controllers. It would be a bit awkward, but no more so than the Sega Nomad. I mean, you can hook this thing up to a TV if you want to play it on the big screen, but you're going to have to learn to share. This is probably the one benefit the other device has over this, the fact that it comes with 2 controllers, but I think the portable features outweigh that. Okay, so let's assume you don't care about any of that. You're just one person and you don't really want to play anything too complex. Even then, this thing really kind of fails. Even if you're not a Sega kid like I wasn't, you can probably agree that while the Genesis' sound chip was notoriously underpowered, when it got it really right. Well, here's what the exact same songs sound like emulated on the AtGames handheld. I don't really have much of a nostalgic connection to these games, and even I feel insulted. This is just inexcusable. Maybe if you've never played a Genesis before, you might not care what it sounds like, but I really feel sorry for you if this is your first introduction to what the console had to offer. I highly recommend the Sega Classics collection on Steam if you want to experience these games in all their original glory, including some that aren't provided here like Gunstar Heroes, Wonder Boy, and RPGs like Phantasy Star and Shining Force. Now, of course, you may have noticed a bit of a discrepancy here. The box clearly says 80 games, and if you've been listening, I only listed 40. So where's the other half? Well, AtGames, in all their infinite knowledge and short-sightedness, decided it would be smart to pad out their game collection with a massive pile of shovelware that even mobile games would consider phoned in. And ironically enough, those are probably going to be the most interesting parts of this video. So strap yourselves in, we're going for a ride. Now, there's not a whole lot to say about most of these. They're lame minigames you'd be ashamed to get for free from the App Store. If you're really curious, I'll upload a second video showing the other games, but for now, let's take a look at some of the more notable ones. Air Hockey. This should be something of a no-brainer, and sadly it's probably one of the better homebrew games on here. It's nothing special, but movement is decent and the AI is actually pretty well programmed. It's not a pushover, but it's also not an unbeatable god either. It's interesting that the goals are in the corner of the board instead of on the side, so it's a pretty fun Pong variant. Oh shit, I just realized. Chinese manufacturer, shovelware from 2006? We gotta check these things for some English. Let's see, instructions. Use the directional button in order to strike the disc toward the adversary goal or to defend your table side. You can play against Mega Drive using the one-player mode or to challenge a friend using the two-players mode. Who first gets 7 goals is the winner. Good lucky! Good lucky indeed. Black Sheep. Oh my... It finally happened. It actually finally happened. Okay, you know how some reviewers dismiss certain games by saying, I can make this myself in an hour? Well, I actually have. I designed this just as a proof of concept, a simple hacking minigame to use in a larger open-world RPG. A set of arrows appears on screen and you have to press the direction of the one that's pointing the wrong way. Do it enough times within the time limit and you hack the system. And that's literally what this game is, just without the hacking pretense. They even had the same bug I did, where sometimes all the arrows would appear in the same direction and you just choose that direction instead. Except this one is even less engaging because the middle sheep is always the odd one out. You don't even have to scan all 5 sheep, just look for the middle one and press the direction he's pointed. Literally 30 seconds into this game, I was already bored and wondering how much longer I had left. At least mine was over in 5 seconds. This is supposed to exist alongside Sonic the Hedgehog and Streets of Rage. Bottle Taps Race. Aim your bottle top and select your power. Be careful not to use too much power or you'll fall off the track and lose your turn. First to make it across the finish line wins. This one is okay. It's nice that they added a good variety of tracks, so maybe it can keep your attention for about 20 minutes. Trust me, that's probably some of the highest praise you'll get for one of these games. Bulls and Cows. As much as I'd like to see some hardcore animal porn, the title has fuck all to do with the game. Try to determine the hidden combination. There are no repeat digits. A represents the number of digits that are present and in the right position. B represents the number of digits that are present but not in the right position. Guess the correct combination according to the hints given. You ever played Mastermind? It's kinda like that. You have to guess a 4-digit number based on clues you receive. I guess this could be a little funny for like logic puzzles, but somehow, I didn't even think it was possible, they actually managed to fuck up the controls. If you press up, it decreases the number, and if you press down, it increases it. Without that, the game would just be kinda boring, but this just makes it obnoxious to try to play. Cannon. Test your sight. Press the A or B or C button once in order to lock your target once again to set the power and fire the bullet. The arrow in the middle of the screen indicates direction and strength of the wind. Pay attention because it can change the bullet trajectory. If you get lucky, maybe there will be no wind to be worried. You can play alone. Okay. Against Mega Drive or challenge a friend. So by that description, yep, it's Artillery Duel. A really bad version too. There's no way to adjust your shot with any finesse. You just have to remember what angle and power you used last time and try to adjust from there. Oh come on, that was right on him! It says the wind can change the direction between shots, but I've never seen it actually happen. Whether I win or the computer beats me, I don't care. I just want this game to end. Oh, thank goodness. Oh no, I lose. Checker. This one's not bad. It's a traditional solitaire peg jumping game. There's no silly animations to get in the way, and controls are clean and responsive. If the title screen is to be believed, this game was made in 2003. That means it was released closer to when the Genesis was still being manufactured than it is to today. I really don't know how to feel about that. Curling 2010. This one just plain baffles me. In the dystopian future year of 2010, the game of curling consists of trying to stun your opponent by throwing balls at them. I know I'm not really a sports expert, but I'm pretty sure the game of curling is absolutely nothing like that. If you get all the balls to the other side, you win. Personally, I'd rather watch the movie Curling, which came out in 2010. There's pretty much no skill involved. I guess you could try hitting the opponent, but there's no purpose to it. Just keep throwing balls across until you get lucky or until your thumb breaks, whichever comes first. Your mother! Hexagonos. It seems the only standout homebrew games on here are the ones that are rip-offs of other existing games. I knew this one as Hexagon for MS-DOS, and hell, you can play that right now in your browser if you want. But wait until the end of the video, please. Or at least open a new tab. There's not much to say. You can clone a piece or jump 2 spaces. If you occupy a space next to an opponent's piece, you convert all adjacent pieces to your side. First to control the board wins. It's a classic puzzle game, so it's pretty hard to screw up. But they did. Instead of being able to just choose the piece you want to move with your cursor, you have to use the D-pad to control a mouse pointer to select it. Also, it's another game with a 2-player mode that does absolute bupkis. You can't even pass the system back and forth and take turns because it's expecting input from a non-existent second controller. Jack's P. Jack's gonna hold his P for a while. We're gonna come back to this one. Trust me, it'll be worth it. Mahjongg. I do enjoy a good game of Mahjong Solitaire every now and then, but this has to be the worst version I have ever played. The tiles are of such low resolution you can barely see them when they're covered up. This one's obviously a crack tile, but what value? How am I supposed to plan a strategy if I can't see what tiles are what? Also, the music in this is fucking horrible! It literally does sound like someone is just practicing their scales but has to punish themselves by beating their head against the keyboard every time they screw up. And for some reason, it's way louder than any of the other music in the system. I had to turn my TV volume almost all the way down just so it would be tolerable. Memory. Oh jeez, it even uses the same tile set as Mahjong Solitaire. Hopefully the music will be better. Oh my fucking hell! Did they actually compose this, or is this really just random notes? I'm being serious here, I can't even make out a melody of any kind. I don't think you could try to make a worse soundtrack. This is just absolute ear poison. And if that wasn't bad enough, the game itself is barely even passable. On the lowest difficulty, you can flip up to 9 tiles at once, which means you can practically beat it blindfolded. No, really. It gets a bit better at higher difficulties, but so many of these tiles look identical to one another, you'll never be able to remember where they are. It's all just a matter of doing it in the fewest possible moves, which it doesn't save, so you better keep track of it yourself. You know, in your big list of your best scores in memory on the AtGames Sega Genesis Ultimate Portable Game Player? Naval Power. Okay, this is the only game that I actually found myself playing frequently enough to call it enjoyable. It's Battleship, and you play against the computer. The AI seems to have the perfect level of difficulty. If you play strategically, you can beat it almost every time, but you have to make sure you don't screw up too much. This kind of game is more than just a matter of luck. There is a strategy to it when it comes to deciding on your shots. For example, once you sink all their 2-space-wide ships, you know it can't be hiding in any open area of 2 spaces or less. The luck factor, combined with the strategy, makes this pretty much the only legitimately addictive homebrew game on here. Finally! Near the bottom of the 3rd page of 4, we actually managed to find one. Snake, yeah, you know Snake, don't you? Again, the music is absolutely horrendous. You only have this one map, but at the very least, and I really mean very least, the items do appear in random positions every time. As soon as you collect the last one, the game instantly ends with you victorious. They could have easily done an infinite mode where you have the items continue to appear until you eventually lose, but this isn't even a challenge. Oh, by the way, this is on the hardest difficulty. You want to see it at level 1? Fucking blow me. Spider, sadly one of the most creative games on the list. That doesn't mean it's any good though, just that the premise is fucking weird. I'll let the good people at DevWorks explain it to you in their own words. You must protect your anniversary cake from the arachnid invasion. For that you have a insecticide, which will help you drop off the spiders, keeping them away from the cake. For each dropped spider, new ones could came up. Control the sight using the directional pad and fire with A or B or C. Press any button to return. Hey wait, I just realized it doesn't even say instructions, it says Instructios. Instructios, the breakfast of teachers. Anyway, spiders are coming after your cake and you have to shoot them. At least the hitbox in these spiders is pretty forgiving. You can hit them anywhere around their general vicinity and shoot multiples at once, which is nice. The control of the crosshair is really sensitive. Just one small tap of the D-pad and you go zipping across the screen ready to kill some more. If any of them get through, it's game over. Jeez, just look at all these things. Where the hell does this guy live anyway? Dude, let it go. It's just an anniversary cake, whatever that means. If they're that determined, just let them have it. Well, that pretty much does it, except for the one we decided to skip over, Jack's P. I'm gonna be honest. This is the game that made me decide to do this video. I was on the fence before, but when I played this, I knew I had to say something about it. Just watch. Imagine if you took Doodle Jump, described it to someone who never played a video game before, and had him describe it to someone who never programmed a game before, and you'll have a pretty good idea of what you're in store for. First of all, the music, if you can even call it that, is nothing more than a 5-second loop repeated until you just want to hang yourself. Look at this shit. Just look at this shit. You know the premise instantly. Press jump and try to climb from one platform to the next, but... is this a joke? Look how slow these platforms are moving. It is impossible to lose this game unless you deliberately try to do so. But since it's random, it's pretty much guaranteed that you end up having to wait with your thumb up your ass for the platform to slowly wind its way back to you just so you can jump onto it. And then when you do, the screen doesn't even scroll smoothly. You can move a tiny bit on your platform, but you can only ever jump straight up and down. You can't move at all while you're in the air. I'm not even fucking joking here. I played this game for over 15 minutes on the same 3 lives, listening to the same obnoxious, repetitive music the whole time, just seeing how far I could get without just giving up and deliberately killing myself. In-game or in real life, I would have accepted either. The levels have no sense of balance. It doesn't even tell you how many platforms you need to jump on to complete each stage, but it seems to increase every time by an arbitrary amount. Finally, around the 6th level, the game actually starts to pose some sort of challenge, and you have to start timing your jumps somewhat carefully. What the hell is this game supposed to be about anyway? Jack the Beanstalk? Because I seem to recall that being a bean and not a pea. The screenshot from the menu isn't even accurate to the game. The platforms never get that close to each other. Oh my, I just realized it. This is what video games are like to people who don't play games. You know, your parents and teachers who like have that smug superiority, like, oh, I just don't get it. This is what they were seeing. A confusing mass of graphics portraying a vague representation of people and objectives, the only reason for playing being to try to get a meaningless high score, but with no real-world value to honing your skills in order to obtain said high score. This is absolute shit. There is no challenge, no sense of fulfillment, no reason to play this game, no respect on the part of the developers to give something the players will enjoy. This is proof they think gamers will play absolutely anything. I know I'm kind of dwelling on this one game, but there's just something about it. Maybe it's the culmination of everything I've played on this device, but I'm severely tempted to add this to the list of the worst games I've ever played. Ethnic Cleansing was horrible, Dear Esther was offensive, and now Jax P proves that literally any shithead with a dev kit can get their game featured on a collection of classic Genesis games. Didn't the Genesis deserve better than this? I'll be the first to admit, this is not my nostalgia, but it is for a lot of people. The Genesis may be dead, but it's not forgotten. It lives on in the hearts and minds of everybody who decided to back Sega's black box instead of Nintendo's gray one. Everybody who loves Sonic the Hedgehog, Streets of Rage, Columns, Golden Axe, Echo the Dolphin, Vector Man, Phantasy Star, Shining Force, Gunstar Heroes, or even any of the multi-platform games that came out in the early 90s. If Nintendo, Sega's biggest rival at the time, could finally bury the hatchet and coexist side by side on the same system, surely we can't allow this lazy excuse for a console to dare act like they're giving a worthy representation of what the Genesis was capable of. Fuck you, AtGames. Fuck you and your lazy, shovelware, nostalgia-riding, poorly emulated, slapshod, shitty excuse for a video game console. The Genesis deserves better. We deserve better. This is TZ, and play a real game today. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to click like if you haven't already. On the right, there's a link to a second video where I look at all the other homebrew games on this piece of crap system. Or on the left, there's an old review of the Burger King games if you want something a bit less rage-inducing. Thank you all for your support, and I'll continue to make videos as long as you keep watching them. Have fun and happy gaming!